Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the end of an era. Not just the end of this group of Guardians and the big last hurrah for some of our favorite characters, but also the end of James Gunn in Marvel, at least for the time being, as many of you know that James Gunn is now one of the lead creatives over in the DC universe and is working on an upcoming Superman project and the Peacemaker and things like that. This would be James Gunn's final hurrah with Marvel. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 was one of the better movies of the Phase 2 of the MCU, and Volume 2 is one that I actually didn't like as much as the first one when I first saw it, although I did like it, but it got better with repeat viewings. That movie really does have a real strong emotional core, and James Gunn's talent is to both be funny but also give you some strong emotions as well. Would he be able to bring that to Guardians 3? Will this stick the landing? Welcome to my non spoiler review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, now in theaters. I will be doing a spoiler review also here on World of Geekdom coming up, so if you're new, hit the subscribe button and enable notifications on that. If you haven't seen the movie, though, I will tell you in this review if I think you're going to like it or not. Here's the thing about Phase 4 and Phase 5. Phase 4, big step down from Phase 3 of Marvel. Phase 5, I thought, well, it's only been around for one movie, which is Ant-Man 3. And I feel like maybe I enjoyed that one a bit more than other people did. I saw some people crapping on it like a lot. I didn't think it was that bad, although that MODOK thing was terrible. That deserves to be crapped on. But I do trust James Gunn to a degree. I'm not sure about his DC decisions right now, but I do trust him when it comes to these characters. So going into this, I was at least cautiously optimistic. And I will say this just to get it out of the way. When Endgame came to an end, after that movie ended, a lot of us, some of you guys, I know I did, discussed how we wanted Guardians 3 to be the as Guardians of the Galaxy with Thor being in the crew. I figured an entire movie of the Guardians with Thor would be a great combination of comedy and action, and we never got that. They had a couple of cameos in the first few minutes of the Thor movie, Love and Thunder, and that was it. And to me, that was a huge misstep. That to me was a huge letdown because I think a lot of people wanted that just to see more of those interactions and to see Thor working with them, whether it be to fight Adam Warlock or whomever. However, we didn't get that. And that is to me a big disappointment. However, I can't go into this movie with that anchor on me because that was obviously not the plan, although I think it should have been. And I will stand by that from now on. You know what I'm saying? So I have mixed opinions about this movie. Very mixed. I liked some of it, I liked most of it, but I didn't love it, and I really wanted to love it. I'll tell you the pros and the cons of the movie, in my opinion, without going into spoilers, because you can kind of gauge whether or not you want to see this movie. I think if you're watching the MCU anyways, you're probably going to go see it, but the question's obviously, okay, should I wait for Disney Plus? Should I wait for the streaming? And to be honest with you, I think it depends on how much you appreciate these characters, but there are issues with the film. So let me go ahead and go through with it. Pros, first of all, Rocket Raccoon. Like how Guardians 2 focused on Peter, Guardians 3 focuses on the backstory and origin of Rocket. And it's pretty damn like it reminded me of a Don Bluth film. You know what I mean? Like Land Before Time. It's pretty freaking dark and it's pretty, emotional. Way more than I think people thought. So if you're a big fan of Rocket, Bradley Cooper does a great job in this movie of portraying him. Peter Quill is also great, as always. He's always great. Chris Pratt once again plays Peter Quill, Star-Lord, and brings his charisma to the role. However, there were a couple times during this movie that he did come off very annoying. In this film, his story, there's two parts to his story. One, he wants to obviously care for Rocket because Rocket is the centerpiece of this film. And two, he's having to deal with the fact that Gamora is from 2014 and doesn't remember anything about their love or anything about their relationship, so he's dealing with that. I'm going to get to Gamora here in a minute, but I thought that was very well done. Once again, Batista plays Drax the Destroyer. He's funny, although once again there were a couple jokes that did not land. I'll go into that more in the next section. Now, another good thing that happened in this movie, besides just what I mentioned, like, positives about this movie, pros, is Nebula. I feel like Nebula had a lot to do in this movie. She was actually super useful and did a lot of things that helped the team out for sure. Karen Gillan once again plays her, and I thought that she was fine because really the character arc of her going from bad guy to good guy is kind of over, but here she really sacrifices a lot for the team. So she's very useful. Vin Diesel playing Groot. Groot is so powerful in this movie. He's like the most powerful member of the Guardians. Like, if you're a Groot fan, you're gonna pop because the dude's a damn animal in this film. You know what I mean? Then on top of that, we've also got, and besides just those cast members, I really like that Sylvester Stallone played a pretty cool character here once again, coming back from Volume 2, Stakar. And then Cosmo the Space Dog is another character that I think got a lot of shine in this movie. A lot of the best jokes were saved for Cosmo, and I liked the Cosmo thing with the ring around his neck so you can hear what he's saying. I love that character, especially in these movies. So that part is good. Besides that, I felt like this film, very much like the previous Guardians movies and even the Suicide Squad, James Gunn once again brings this really imaginative flavor to the franchise. Very few movies in the MCU really can capture this sort of style, and he's very good at kind of putting jokes into the story and not ruining the scene. That happens like once in this movie, but besides that, it works and it flows very well. There are visuals in this movie that are mind blowing. It reminds me a lot of the first Guardians, which I still don't think is the best one, but James Gunn is super imaginative. And obviously, a lot of this is from the Marvel Comics, but I think he did a great job in adapting some of these wild planets and creatures into the universe, into the movie universe. One of the things about this movie is that a lot of it felt like an episode of Star Trek. Like the fact they're traveling to different planets and they're meeting different people and civilizations, that's part of the story. And at one point, it really felt like Star Trek. Like it really, truly did. In parts, of course. The finale of this movie was very emotional. It's a very emotional, I guess, fitting ending, even though I think we're going to see the characters again. It does tease that. Check out the mid and post credit scenes to get more information whenever you see the movie. Obviously, you can. By now, if you watch an MCU movie, you know that you're going to have a mid and post credit scene. It's very rare they don't do it. So, when it comes to the pros, that's pretty much it. I do want to put over John Murphy's great soundtrack. This movie had a phenomenal soundtrack of real music and just score, and the score was great. Now, let's get to the bad, okay? The bad about this movie. I think it's overly long. I think you could have shaved a lot of time off this movie and cut some segments out. I understand the character arc they were going for. I truly do. And while the movie has these flashbacks, because the movie's structured in a way where you have flashbacks to Rocket's past, and I really did appreciate that. That was pretty awesome. It's kind of a science fiction version of like a Shakespearean tragedy. Like it really does feel that way. Obviously, not as epic as original Shakespeare was, but it's got that same style. You know what I mean? Like his past, Rocket's past is pretty damn dark. So besides that, the villain of this movie is the High Evolutionary, and I have said before in these reviews about how some villains come off like Saturday morning cartoons. This right here, High Evolutionary, played by Chukwudi Iwuji. If I messed that up, I'm sorry. This character, is the epitome. He is the epitome of Saturday morning cartoon villain. The way he talks, kind of clownish. He's got these evil plans. He thinks he's in the right. There were things about the character that I liked. Don't get me wrong. He's very cruel in this movie and very unlikable. But it also feels like maybe they were trying a bit too hard. It kind of was going down that, and I hate to make this comparison, but you got to hear me out on this one. The High Evolutionary was just a slightly better version than what was in Battlefield Earth. You know how in Battlefield Earth, if you ever saw it, all the villains are like always laughing and being maniacal? That's what this came off as. So if you like that, you're going to be fine with it. To me, it just felt, I don't know, it was a little bit too much. It was a bit too much. And like I said, James Gunn's good at humor, but this did not work. The big disappointment for me, y'all, was Adam Warlock. In this movie, he's played by Will Poulter. And if you remember, Adam Warlock was created by the Sovereign to destroy the Guardians in the post-credit scene of Guardians 2. This was a huge disappointment. This was a huge letdown. I obviously a lot of us expected Adam Warlock to be the villain, and he does have a role in this movie, but this movie made Adam Warlock look like a complete clown. Like it really did. He basically has these incredible powers. He can fly, he can fire blasts. Like he's just an animal when it comes to combat. But yet he comes off so damn stupid and like such a clown. Like it's one of those kind of jokes where like kind of characters where like he's dumb, like he's underdeveloped, and I think that a lot of characters in this universe are like that, including Drax. But I think with Drax is a pretty nice little balance. With Adam Warlock, he's not supposed to be that dumb, and he was. I feel like he was wasted. I really think that he was wasted in this movie. I should also mention that when it comes to charisma, like when I mean like scenes together, like chemistry, I do really like the Mantis chemistry with Drax. I really do like that. That was good. But we're talking about the negatives here, and I felt like as a villain, it didn't work. Also, in my opinion, I forgot to mention this a minute ago, but I do feel like the way they defeated him in the film, I felt like it was unsatisfying. It was very much unsatisfying, and that's how I feel about it. Overall, like this movie has pros and cons like any movie does, but this movie's much more balanced. It's definitely my least favorite Guardians film. I like the stuff with Rocket a lot. I like the Peter Quill stuff, except for when he got annoying. I enjoyed some of the unique worlds, and this movie has a lot of world building. Like, there's tons of world building, new planets, lots of lore. I felt like the villain should have been toned down a bit, and if Adam Warlock was gonna just do what he did in this film, it may have been better if they just saved him for another movie. Because I do think that he was probably the most tragic loss when it comes to this movie, as far as a character that I was expecting to be bigger than he actually was. To me, it was a big letdown. It was a bit of a disappointment, this movie. I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I'm not saying that. I liked it, but I didn't love it, and I really wanted to love it. Like, I really wanted to like this movie. It's like the last James Gunn movie. I wanted him to kind of, go out with a bang. And it comes down to what you like. If you liked the Suicide Squad or the previous Guardians you'll probably like this one, I think. But I think you'll also notice that it it's got problems. Like it definitely has problems that I think could have been fixed. I don't think that James Gunn rushed the script or anything like that. I don't think it's one of those kind of situations. It just feels like the movie could have done so much more with the characters it had. And I do like the world building, like I said. It's just sometimes James Gunn can go a little bit past like what's funny into like getting annoying. He's good at avoiding that, but in this movie I felt like he kind of hit that annoying button a little bit too much. Like I said, some of the jokes did not land just because it's like the same shit over and over again. It's a very wacky movie. Like this movie had like shades of like the Fifth Element. You know what I mean? Remember how the Fifth Element was with those weird planets and all these like kooky characters? This had a lot of that. So it's up to you, man. Like I said, once again, I liked it, did not love it, and I really wanted to love it. So with that being said, let me know in the comments if you've seen the movie. I will be probably doing a spoiler review later. So for now, take care. Let me know what you think if you saw the movie, and I'll see you in the spoiler review after you see the movie if you haven't seen it yet, or if you do.